Welcome to Hornbill TV's Primetime with Ngullie, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have got some interesting topics to talk about. Salhotunio Kruse'S and Hekani Jakalu Kense will now go down in Nagaland's history as the first female representatives in the state government. Kruse'S is the first female government minister and of course Kense, Nagaland's first elected representative to the assembly. This event has set off conversations in both the community and among institutional forums whether it actually represents a change in the way people perceive women, women's leadership and women's empowerment. Some believe this might be a sign of change in the landscape of gender politics in traditionally conservative Nagaland. Again, others believe this is rare and a one-time event. More on it in a while. Let's check out the topics for Saturday we will be exploring. Is the election of two Naga women to the Nagaland Legislative Assembly a happy fluke or a sign of a shift in Nagaland's outlook in gender equality and empowerment? Gender politics is more than an assertion of the rights of opportunities bestowed on a person, man or women. The subject is an extremely complex composition of historical narratives, political and social ideologies, culture, and of course statutory political mechanisms. This complexity would only mean one thing: a clash of ideologies, different value systems, and even among different communities. It may be unwise to put a finger to a single reason to claim that Kruse'S and Kense are the starting point for greater political representation for women in Nagaland. It is equally unwise to brush it off as a political sample of convenience and maneuvering, of course. Again, the issue of equality or empowerment takes on an entirely different aspect if it is forced by political will, such as through legislations in the form of the 33% reservation of seats for women in the parliament. This is one of the reasons why reserving quotas for women in Nagaland remains an extremely sensitive question. The most recent and expected reaction has come from the leadership of several community groups in Nagaland. The Women Reservation Bill was introduced in the Rajya Sabha in May 2008 and was referred to as Standing Committee. In 2010, it was passed in the House and sent to the Lok Sabha. However, the bill lapsed with the 15th Lok Sabha. Tribal communities were traditionally built on the ideas of family values, which again set the hierarchy of gender roles in the family and community. Further, it sets the tone of social and political narratives, what these institutions grow into. Generally, women in Nagaland are socially empowered. In policy-making forums, though, they have no representations until, of course, Kruse'S and Kense came along. Now you are aware that just yesterday, in about a week after two women made history in Nagaland by being elected to Nagaland's Legislative Assembly, the government had announced conducting elections to 39 urban local bodies with the controversial 33% seat reservation for women in place. This has set off a swift denouncement from three civic organizations in Kohima, Dimapur and Woka, of course. They have issued a threat to disallow the elections. We will get to the story in just a little while. The threat of resurgence in protest and opposition by community organizations is in stark contrast to two women who were elected to the assembly for the first time, right? This is the elephant in the room, ladies and gentlemen. Does their election represent a sign of measurable change in how the Nagaland community views women's political representation? Or was it merely a fluke, a chance encounter, an aberration that political expediency brought, unsupported by views that women are actually ready for representation? Was it only the result of an abnormal maneuvering by a right-leaning party that dipped its hands in the liberal left sentiments? I tried to get in touch with a number of people, including Hekani Kense and Dolly Kikon, the anthropologist, for their perspective in this regard. However, they are yet to get back to me. So let's see if women representation in Nagaland is showing a sign of thaw or is it just another happy incident? Women in executive government positions, according to data as of January 2023 by the UN Women organization, show that women represent approximately 22.8% of cabinet members, including ministries, who are leading in a policy area. That's the data for now. And then there are only 13 countries in which women hold 50% or more of cabinet ministers' position leading policy areas. That is, Kruse'S will be one of the 22.8%. In regard to women in national parliaments, only 26.5% of parliamentarians in single or lower houses are women, up from about 11% in 1995. Now let's check out the local government data. According to the UN Women, for local governments, data from 136 countries show that women constitute nearly 3 million, that is about 34% of elected members in local bodies. MLA Kense will be one of the 34%. So what do these numbers mean? It means that generally, and I'm talking about generally, gender-based reservations may have contributed to the progress of women over the years. In countries with legislated candidate reservations, that is women quota, women's representation is 5 percentage points and 7 percentage points higher in parliaments and local governments respectively, compared to countries without such reservation legislations. If you are interested in its contents, you may check out the United Nations Economic and Social Council Commission on the Status of Women 65th session document. We have to be cautious with this data because they do not represent a community demographic, but only the outline of a particular field of professional engagement, that is women in politics. So that's the area the data is concerned about. There are extremely difficult and complex issues that might define what equality or representation might mean, ladies and gentlemen. Not every woman or girl wants to be a minister or a doctor. I think that is something we should be clear about. If you read the European gender studies, including the famous Nordic gender equality paradox report, you might get an idea why women's participation in politics does not always mean that they are disempowered or does not enjoy equal opportunities or rights with men. I think that report will give us a very clear idea how different men are from women and how different our capabilities are in regard to certain fields or areas of expertise. It is just that, just as not all men become chief ministers or bodybuilders, and not all women like politics or wants to become ministers or wants to study medicine. In fact, according to the UN, gender equality at the current rate in the highest positions of power across the world will not be reached for another 130 years. That will be more than a century before we can actually say that there is real empowerment and equality of opportunity even in political forums like governments, before we have at least 130 years through participation in the political processes, and of course even through the process of social conversations and legislations along the way. That said, the Naga community is still deeply entrenched in its family and community values, steeped in ancestral norms and traditional practices. By a rough glance at the states, it would seem that it would be a long time before female political representatives in Nagaland become a common sight. We have to look at the past to make an assessment. Okay, in the first assembly election in Nagaland, no woman contested. Since the first assembly elections in 1964 until 2023, the elections that we had just a month ago, only 25 Naga women in total contested. They have contested in the Nagaland Legislative Assembly elections. On the brighter side, the number of female candidates has been increasing since 2003. It's not so much, but it is increasing. In 2003, there were 3 candidates, 4 in 2008, 2 again in 2013. Then it increased to 5 female candidates in the 2018 elections. Then in 2023, 4 of them contested and 2 of them were elected, making history for not only the women folk of Nagaland but Nagaland itself. Those 2 were Kense and Kruse'S. The pool is more on the higher side than it is decreasing. It is not much. We are not having female candidates by the numbers of 50 or 60 or hundreds. We are having an increase of about 6 or 5 candidates per election since 1963, but it is still a very high number if you consider the rate of increase. It's more on the higher side comparatively. So right, by a statistical point of view, we might opine that MLA Kense and Minister Kruse'S election might just be a remarkable event, then that is normal. But then it is also a very strong indication that people will not leave or have any reservation about voting for female candidates. That's one of the biggest indications, but only if they are perceived as capable. Or like I said, this might just be another happy incident. It might be a fluke, or perhaps it might be an indication of change that is coming to the mindset of the people of Nagaland, who have been traditionally very conservative. But again, it is not that people might always vote for male candidates. The fact that Kruse'S and Kense were elected also shows an indication that the reservation about electing female candidates is slowly breaking down. So it's a good sign. So this brings us to the next story again. There is a threat to disallow or not participate in the urban local body elections in Nagaland. So let's check out the story and connect the 2 stories together. As soon as the government of Nagaland announced the urban body elections after 2 women were elected to the assembly, 3 organizations in Nagaland have decided that they would not allow or participate in the elections scheduled for May 16. The organizations have demanded that the government must amend portions in the Nagaland Municipal Act 2001 pertinent to the reservation for women and of course taxation. The organizations making the demand are the Association of Kohima Municipal Ward Panchayat, All Wards Union of Mokokchung Town, and the Dimapur Urban Council Chairman Federation. They are demanding amendment or review of the Act. Likewise, the organizations are demanding a policy for women nominees instead of giving them 33% reservation of seats. Article 371A provides that no Act of Parliament would apply to the state of Nagaland unless the Assembly by resolution decide it in regard to the Naga customary law and procedures. That's the argument of the organizations. They say that Naga customary law does not allow women to equally participate in the political and socio-economic decision making. Another concern these organizations have expressed was that introducing women's political culture, and I'm quoting them, which was never there in the traditional Naga society, widens collective concerns over Article 371A, the organizations have said. The issue brings back unpleasant memories for most of us. Some of you might remember violence erupted in 2017 in the state when the government decided to conduct municipal elections. Communities opposing the reservation launched protests, and I think you remember that it was just in 2017. These protests led to violent clashes that led to the death of 2 youths and injury to several others. If I recall correctly, the 2 youths were from the Bubar area. They also attacked the residence of the then Chief Minister and current Deputy Chief Minister T.R. Ziliang. This had forced the government to call the elections off. Let's hope for peaceful conversations this time in this regard, ladies and gentlemen. Let's check out the next news item. Some Japanese tourists are going to think twice, maybe thrice, before visiting India. Our country's tourism reputation is in the news yet again for the wrong reasons. 3 individuals have been taken into police custody after allegedly harassing and manhandling a woman from Japan during Holi celebrations. The incident reportedly happened in Delhi on Holi, the police said today. The police said the young tourist was staying at a place in central Delhi. The 3 accused persons, one of them said to be a juvenile, are reported to be from the same area. The girl has not filed a complaint so far, but has left India for Bangladesh yesterday, sources said. The police said in a statement that the girl tweeted that she had reached Bangladesh and that she was mentally and physically well. That's what the report said today. A video of the incident, which went viral on social media earlier, had sparked outrage, anger, and calls from citizens for tougher action against the people involved in the alleged harassment of the Japanese tourists. In the video, the men are seen grabbing the as yet unidentified girl and smearing colors on her amid chants of "Holy Hey." A boy is also seen smashing an egg on her head. The video shows her slap a man who tried to hold her before she finally managed to step away. The accused persons have been identified and an investigation is on, officials said. It was informed that the authorities were also in touch with the Japan embassy. This is not the first time India has been in the news for how some of our people have treated tourists. Ladies and gentlemen, how safe is India for tourists? Generally, the reviews aren't that great and they are broadly on the lower side of approval, if you ask me. For instance, the 2021 Global Peace Index ranks the country at 135 out of 163 countries. The Global Finance magazine ranked the country 91st out of 134 countries in 2021. This was used based on a rating system built around healthcare, infrastructure, and financial power. The first one was based on militarization and unstable local environments. The State Department has also given India a level 2 rating, mainly because of crime and terrorism in India. Level 2 rating means please exercise increased caution when you are in India. So that's the ratings description. Again, the world's safest countries rankings produced by Berkshire Hathaway Travel Protection have tracked India's relative safety for 4 years. In 2022, India placed 41st for safety out of the 42 most popular countries for travelers. That is very low. In the past, India has finished as low as 29th out of 30 countries and as high as 36 out of 56 in the BHTP rankings. Those were the newsmakers of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We have been talking about the urban local body elections for some time, and the controversy has been revived yet again with the government announcing the elections, and then community and civic organizations in Mokchong, Dimapur and Kohima coming out in force to say that they need a review of this amendment bill before we can go to the elections. We'd like to know what you think about whether we should be using 33 reservation of seats for women as part of the clauses for the elections to be held, or do you think it is necessary, or do you think that we should be giving our women a chance to represent the voices of not only the women but also the men in our community in policy and decision-making bodies? If you have any thoughts on that, and if you're watching this on social media, please leave a comment and let us know what you think. I will see you next time. I'm Ngullie. Take good care. See you.